Hello, everyone, and welcome to Business Conversations with Gaitha. This is our second episode, and I'm very excited today because we will be talking about business, especially businesses, SMEs in Africa, because the conversation we'll be having today is about supporting SMEs to do business in Africa. Today, I have an exciting guest all the way from South Africa. I keep telling people when you talk about business, it's beyond borders, right? So I'm in Kenya, she's in South Africa, and we also have a few more things we'll be showing you or discussing during this conversation. So what I need you to do today is just pay attention. I've been telling everybody this is the time to listen, to learn, and to level up, especially in business as we transition into the new normal. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gaitha. I am the founder and the CEO of Regal Africa Group, where we help our clients create wealth. And what I've been telling everybody is whenever you want to create wealth, there are two things that you need to do. One, you need to actually have a business or actually get business profits or investment income. So if you do those two things, then definitely you are going to create wealth. And the reason why I started the business conversations with Gaitha was simply because during this time of COVID, during this pandemic, everybody has realized the importance of business, right? The importance of business leadership, the importance of businesses that are able to be in a position to mitigate risks that come in, unexpected risks, expected risks. And so this business conversation that we'll be having in the next couple of weeks will be quite interesting, whereby we actually listen in and have different guests from all over the world who will be able to then share what it is that they believe about business. Now, before I go in and introduce Nokwazi, because she's a really great lady who I met a couple years ago. So a couple of years ago, 2012 to be precise, I made the decision to move from the United States, where I'd been living for 15 years, and come back home to Kenya. And a lot of people asked me why, but for me, the reason was I am very passionate about wealth creation for all and Africa economic development. But before I came back to Kenya, I had to do a stopover in China, where I met Nokwazi at Shanghai. I was actually doing my MBA, my Master's in Business Administration. And what I was doing in China specifically is to find out, what do the Chinese need? What do they want from us in Africa? Because I realized as a business person, I had to understand the world. I'd been exposed to the West, and so I knew exactly what they wanted and needed. But I really wanted to be able to understand China. And it is through my journey in China doing my MBA that I was able to meet very many different people from all around the world and really share stories about what it is that we wanted to do to the world in regards to business. And that's how I actually met Nokwazi. Now, before I actually go on and on about what we've been doing and the conversation we'll be talking about here, I really want to go in and just sort of read out her bio, because Nokwazi has done very many interesting things over time. And that way you'll be able to just get a snippet of what it is that she does, so that you can be able to understand more about why she's an expert in business. So Nokwazi Mzobe is an author, consultant, adjacent lecturer, and an entrepreneur. She is passionate about developing businesses in Africa. Her work allows her to cultivate entrepreneurial thinking, develop and empower business owners, as well as promote a culture of entrepreneurial, innovative, and creative thinking. She's the founder and lead consultant at Matoyana, an entrepreneurship and sustainability-focused consulting firm, which works with corporates, nonprofits, business schools, and individuals that believe that we as a collective can make a positive change on our continent by supporting and developing people to run successful and sustainable businesses. Nokwazi specializes on the business model and helps entrepreneurs at ideation, startup, and early growth stages design and think through their business models, including social and green business models. She also lectures and facilitates on how businesses can use business model and value proposition tools strategically to think through and innovate new businesses, services, and products. Her first book, The Small Business Handbook, a guide created for startup and early stage businesses, is available in English and in Zulu, as she believes that entrepreneurial knowledge should be made accessible to people so that people can solve their own problems. She is constantly creating content for her business blog, as well as contributing to other platforms. Nokwazi is very passionate about giving back, and therefore she sits on the board of trustees of the National Children and Violence Trust, a business mentor for university students at AFDA, and is a coach mentor to 6 youth. In 2018 and 2019, she launched the Fearless and Warrior Women campaign, where she creates a web series featuring women who are breaking barriers and creating their unique path in the world. Before becoming an entrepreneur, she spent 8 years at Procter & Gamble and Nokia International, working across the Middle East and Africa in logistics, marketing, and finance roles. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, an honors degree from Wits University, and an MBA from Harvard International Business School. She lives by the saying, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's a quote by Abraham Lincoln. So I have said a lot about Nokwazi. I've read her bio, so you can really tell that she is a woman who knows her thing. And one of the things that connects us is she moved from corporate to business. And I can also understand maybe why she did that. But before I go on, maybe I can give you a minute, Nokwazi, just to share with us your journey in business and why you're very passionate about businesses, especially SMEs in Africa. Welcome, Nokwazi.
Thank you, Anne. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your platform, especially since you're alum. So I think there's just that special connection. So I'm quite excited. And I was actually thinking that, shucks, the last time we actually saw each other was in Shanghai, and we live 5 hours flight away from each other. So we've got to fix this. Yeah, so yes, we've got to fix this. So yes, just a bit about me is that, you know, my journey in business started in my childhood, basically. My parents were business owners. They owned a butchery, and they owned mom and pop stores or small supermarkets in our community. And so, you know, I grew up in a family where we had to help in the business. We had to go to the bank. We had to count, you know, the money at the end of the day and so forth. So we went with our parents to the abattoir, to, you know, the markets and so forth. So we learned business at a young age. So that's where it started. But, you know, typical young person, you want to rebel and you don't want to be and do anything in business. So that's how I ended up doing sciences at university and psychology. And the vision was to either be a clinical psychologist or a doctor. But I guess life was just like, no, because whilst I was studying, I was like, I'm not enjoying this. So I ended up in business and ended up working for corporate. And I worked there at, as you said, Procter & Gamble for 5 years, and then 3 years at Nokia in South Africa and also in Nairobi. So I left Nairobi end of 2011 and headed over to Boston to do my MBA. And I think that's where I got really inspired to do something more. I think, you know, as we all know, the health MBA is very different from the traditional MBA. It makes you think differently. And so for me, there was this thing that I can't come back home and do the same thing. I just can't. And so I came back to South Africa and I just sat. For the first time in my life, I was not working. I was not looking for anything. I just wanted time out, just time to think. And during that time, I actually started volunteering for a women's program. And it was there actually that my love for business kind of got reignited. And I was mentoring women who run their own businesses and run small businesses. And literally it just started off from like volunteering and mentoring, and then somebody else referred me, then somebody else was like, do you actually do this as a business? And at the time I was like, I'm on sabbatical, you know, but I guess the sabbatical turned into a real business. So here I am 7 years later, you know, really just from mentoring women, and today running a consultancy, partnering with other organizations, you know, writing a book, and all, you know, all about, I guess for me, helping people realize that the power is in their hands to create their own future. And, you know, it doesn't matter what it is that they do, if they learn the right skills, learn how to monetize what they do, and of course, provide quality services and products, you know, they can really change their world, their own world. So, you know, that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years.
Oh, wow, great. Actually, I loved what you've just said right now. I wrote it down. Power is in your hand to create your future. I totally agree that, because I always say that, for me, I always say it starts with your mindset, but you have the power to create your reality. If you want something, you make a way to make it happen, right? And I think the journey is different from everybody. For you, like you said, it sort of morphed naturally. I'm a planner, so for me, it was really planned categorically. Like, these are the steps that I'm taking for the next 10 to 20 years, and this is what I want to do to help businesses in Africa. But it's very different from you, but I really, really like that. So, Nokwazi, I have a few questions from you, and over time, we do have audiences on Zoom and also on Facebook, whereby they'll be able to ask you a few questions so that you can just clarify and just let us know what it is that you really think about businesses and what it is that we need to do. Because again, our topic for today is supporting SMEs to do business in Africa. So Nokwazi, what do you think SMEs need to do to be successful in business? I know that's a loaded question and it's really wide, but what do you think an SME needs to do to be successful?
Okay, so let me make myself comfortable. I realize I'm sitting here very stiff, and yeah, so what do they need to do? I think the first thing that they need to do is that, it's gonna sound technical, but like, find the right value proposition, like find the right problem to solve for the customers. You know, I think gone are the days of, I'm gonna create something and hope customers will come, right? We all now know that that model is a very expensive model. And so we really need to sit down and understand who we're trying to service and make sure that we're addressing the needs that they have. So for me, I say that is where we start off, is that creating the right services and products for your customer base. So that's number one, right? And how do you go about it? You know, it's going in and meeting them and chatting to them and understanding what they need, what they want, you know, what their fears are, you know, not being afraid to start quickly and test it and take feedback, you know. So I think the other thing that entrepreneurs need, or aspiring business owners, is, you need to be humble, but also have a suit of, like a strong armor around you, you know, because to be able to take feedback, you know, for me, business is about serving. And I think we forget that. I think we've grown up in a world where we've always seen business icons as these all-powerful people who dictate. But the reality is that business is about serving others, because people are spending their hard-earned money on whatever products and services that you're providing. So it's about having a humble mindset, and it's about having a service mindset. So that's the other thing. The third one for me is financial literacy. Yeah, even today, it just shocks me how little people know about managing their money, not just in business, just even financially. Like, if you had to ask somebody, what is the average cost of just your household? People won't be able to tell you. And then you ask yourself, if you don't even know how to manage your household money, how are you going to be able to manage the money in your business? So empowering themselves about money, not being afraid. A lot of people have had trauma. I mean, every time I ask people, I mean, the last question I asked was someone who said, my maths teacher in high school told me that I'll never be successful at this. And so I've had a block when it came to finances. And I'm just like, finance is not about maths. You know, so let's separate the two first of all. Yes, you can account, but it really is not just about maths. Yeah. So for me, it's financial literacy, not just understanding your finances, but literally being literate and understanding the importance of finance. Because, you know, when you're in a business, your financials tell a story. Your financials tell a story of how you're managing your business. Your financials will tell a story of how much you've invested and put in your business and what the value of your business is, right? And if you're wanting to grow and if you're wanting to get investment down the line, the one thing they will always ask for are your financials. And you can tell a beautiful story. I always say this to entrepreneurs. You can tell a beautiful story and sell everybody how amazing your idea is. But investors and funders, when they will say, show us your financials, and they will be able to tell you where you've been lying. So, so for me, financial literacy. The next one is linked to the first one about customers, right? So one of the things I always hear is, and especially in South Africa, people will say, you know, the challenges are market linkages. I don't have a market. You know, I can't access the market. And, you know, going back to the mindset, and I'm, you know, and I think you and I have chatted about this, is that, you know, in business, we know, right? There are those people who control certain sectors of business. And sometimes it becomes, it's difficult to be able to enter depending on which industry that you're in. And so my thing is about mindset. It's about having the mindset of, if this door does not open for me, I need to create another one. And I need to find a way, because that's what entrepreneurs are, right? At the end of the day, entrepreneurs are, and I hate saying risk takers, they're risk mitigators, not risk takers. Entrepreneurs see the risk, but they find a way to mitigate the risk. Right?
Entrepreneurs take calculated risk. It's about taking a calculated risk, right?
Yes.
Are you willing to go this way? Great.
Yes. The other one is that, you know, you're a problem solver. So if you can't solve a problem for yourself, how are you going to solve a problem for your client? And so for me, it's about being able to look at it from that perspective, and rather than say, you know, these guys are not letting me in, the question is, how can I find a way to enter this space, to enter this market? And really, I think for me, what's really empowering and what I'm seeing, I'm meeting amazing men and women who are starting to do that. And you've done that, Anne, right? You've come back home. You've seen the lay of the land and how business operates in Nairobi. And you're not just saying that, okay, I'm not gonna be that person that says, I don't have that connection, I don't have this, I don't have that, so I won't continue. You've been that person who's been like, okay, let me find a way around it and make it happen. So for me is that you've got to have
the entrepreneur mindset, right?
The mindset, right? Of being able to create that market for yourself rather than just seeing the blockages and the hindrances. So for me, it's really that. And also, you know, I'd say the last thing is that linked to the first one about solving problems, like, let's create solutions for our own people. Right? Let's stop taking Western ideas and services and bring them here, because that's what they've been doing, right? If we just look at how natural hair care has blown up, right? You know, why has it taken us so long to love our own hair and create products from shea butter and all these natural ingredients that we have here in Africa, but we've been using Dark and Lovely from the US to straighten our hair? Like really, right? So let's look at our own people. Let's look at our own problems and our own opportunities and find ways to create services and products that meet them. So for me, I think for me, I mean, I could go on forever, but those are I'd say 4 or 5 things that I would say entrepreneurs need. And I guess the last one is networks, but this is what I mean about networks. Again, there's that saying that goes, your network is your net worth.
Mm-hmm.
And then with that, people always think, so how am I going to connect with Anne? Because Anne is now a successful businesswoman. Or, how am I going to connect with whoever, right? Whereas just stop and look around you and look at the network around you. And then say, hey, what if I partnered with that person or I chatted with that person because their sister works there? You actually have a powerful network around you. It's not about stepping out of your network and looking out. And, I love using the example of Issa Rae, where of Insecure, if so any of you have watched her shows, is that she was interviewed and she said, where I started with my peers. I started with the ones I went to school with, and they were the ones who were my actors and producers. She brought them in, she used her peers, and she grew with her peers. And so for me, that's the other thing, is that your network is around you. You don't necessarily have to create a totally different network. And if you think the network that you have around you is maybe not the right network, then go online and join groups and and try join fellowships and go study and do things that will help you broaden your network. But yeah, network is very key.
All right. I agree with everything that you've said, but all of it is, the underlining is always just how do you think about a situation and how do you find the solution around it. As business people, as entrepreneurs, you're solving problems. I mean, you can't provide a good service that nobody wants. Then how are you going to make money? You've really talked about the entrepreneur mindset, networks. But for me, maybe because I'm a banker by profession, and what I have seen a lot of SMEs have challenges with financing or getting financing, if they don't keep their books, they don't understand the numbers. And I always tell them, numbers don't lie. They tell a story. So unless you're able to actually keep track of that, it's very hard for you to get funding. I mean, if you're doing business on your own and you're not looking for funding, then you can run your business the way you want to run it. But if you were actually going to go out there and ask somebody else for money, then you need to run it a different way. So thank you for all the information that you've shared, because it doesn't only pertain to South Africa. This, I think, is African, it's actually global. So this is great, and I'm loving this conversation. Because this is definitely what I've been telling everybody they need to do.
So I just want to add to what you just said there about being a banker and stuff like that, right? And even if you're just running your business for yourself and you're thinking, I'm not going to look for external finance. So I'm touching what I know is your vision. And your vision is about creating wealth and about creating generational wealth. Yeah. So even if it's just going to be a family business, it's even more important then to be on top of your finances. Because if you want to be passing this business on to the next generation, you've got to believe in them with something that's solid. So even if you're not looking for external financing, you've got to be on top of your numbers.
I agree. And thank you for that, because those are conversations I usually have with people, and they're like, I don't need funding. And you're like, no, but the numbers are not for anybody, it's for you. Because I always tell people, and you also do strategy, right? I can't come and help you strategy if I really don't know how your revenues are or what your expenses are. How do you grow? Do you grow organically? Do you have to merge or acquire somebody? I really can't advise you if I really don't understand the business. And they all understand the business is through the financial statement. So I agree with you. So, but maybe that's my next question. Maybe some people say it's something that maybe we learned in corporate. So for me, and I'm asked this question, and I'd really like you to answer this question. From your experience in corporate, what did you learn that you can now go ahead and advise SMEs to do, especially around positioning themselves in doing business, great business, and also doing business with corporate? and be part of that supply chain. What is your advice for SMEs to do that?
So I think first bit of advice is that for me, in order to grow in business and even to grow in corporate, it was about you. So what is your personal brand? So how did you show up in corporate, right? Were you the hard worker? Were you the innovative one, or were you the one who sat there and complained, right? So it starts with you. It starts with how you position yourself and yeah. And then the second thing is about learning, constantly learning, and not being the type of person that says, this is my department and it stops here, right? I will do what needs to be done and then that person does whatever. So, it's really, really important. And for me, as you said, when you introduced me, I worked in logistics, I worked in marketing, and I worked in finance. So I was very lucky to have a very broad view of corporate and be able to work in different roles. And so for me, it's also about that. It's not just, for those who are aspiring to leave corporate, you've got to understand how the other departments work and how everything is interlinked. And then I would say then for the entrepreneurs is that, corporate is your potential customer. So if corporate is your potential customer, you've got to understand what's important to them. So I always say to people, go onto the internet and go into the corporate's website and read up about them and read up on what they're prioritizing and what their focus is on, and even the type of language they use, because it will give you an idea of who they are as a corporate. So one thing I tend to see is that small businesses and entrepreneurs, right, they just really want to work with the corporate. And so they become quite, and maybe lack of a better word, desperate. But I always say to people, you've got to choose your corporate partners properly, because you want the type of partner who will understand that you're a small business and will say, oh, so because you're a small business, maybe let me not give you 90 days payment terms, let me give you 30 days payment terms, because I understand that as a small business, cash flow is even more important, and you don't have easy access to the banks and to other financing institutions to help you manage your cash flow. You need to work with the type of corporate, right? So for me, I'm very passionate about social and environmental impact. So again, when I engage with corporates, the one thing I always try to understand is that what are they doing to better society? Because if their values and my values aren't aligned, then I will not be able to deliver the best work that I can when I'm working with them. So that's the other thing as well, is actually recognizing that your values need to align with the corporates that you're working with. And then the other thing that you need to understand is that corporate works very differently. So as a small business, I can make a decision tomorrow and say, and let's partner, let's go do this, right? But with corporate, there are systems and processes, there are checks and balances, there are policies and procedures that they have to go through. So then, you'll tend to hear people say, I went and I presented and it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Realize that the sales cycle is quite long when it comes to corporate, because there are quite a few steps that they need to kind of go through. There's this thing that you learn in corporate, is that when you get a quote, you get 3 quotes, a minimum of 3 quotes, right? You don't just work with the first service provider. So know that when you go to them, there are other people who are going to go to them as well, and they are going to, do their due diligence, which goes back to the financials, right? Which goes back to how you operate as a small business. Corporates will do their due diligence because for them, reputation is very important. So they also want the small businesses that they work with, right, to be compliant, to pay their taxes, to be visible online. I mean, I met a lady who's been running a business for 4 years. And she approached this corporate, and this corporate was like, we love what you're doing, but we can't find you online. And she was just like, and she didn't have a web. She was like, but I've never needed a website before. I've gotten work. And they were like, but we can't find you online. How do we know you actually exist? You know, so small things like that, you know. And then the last thing is that understanding that the specific process in terms of how corporate selects their service providers is so important. And things like, you know, having the contract up front, having a purchase order, understanding what a purchase order is. I've met businesses that start doing work with, you know, certain organizations who may not follow a procedure. And then guess what? Then they're submitting their invoice and the finance department says, where's your purchase order? And, you know, and maybe the person you're working with internally didn't fully understand the financial systems, or they're like, no, this is a big campaign, it's rushed, we need to do it tomorrow. Can you just start the work? It's the onus is on you, the service provider, the business owner, to say, okay, I can start the work, but here's the thing, I need to understand what is the process for me getting paid. And if you don't understand that upfront, you'll find yourself doing work and delivering, and then finding that you can't invoice because guess what? You haven't followed the internal systems for and processes, you know. And these are things that I've seen. These are things that I've even experienced when it comes to working with corporates and I'm even adding, yeah, like big institutions like business schools and stuff like that. They have certain systems and processes. And so when we, as small businesses, don't have our ish in order, that can really, really block our process because corporate is process driven. So for me, that's the thing. Your personal brand, your business brand, compliance, and taking time to understand how each and every corporate you approach works and what they value and what they prioritize.
Oh, wow. Thank you for all of that, because it's very, you remember how earlier you're talking about when you're doing business. I always tell people it's about knowing your client, knowing your customer. How is it that they work? So most people usually approach every customer the same. So in this case, this is how I do business with an individual, or how I do business with other small businesses. So I'll do the same thing with corporate, and then it doesn't work. And so they find it difficult in regards to going through processes. But I always tell people that you want to do things the right way. You need to set up your business the right way. So then you can actually start being able to scale up and do businesses with corporates, you know, with institutions, eventually with government, because you have your things in place, right? So that's very, very, very critical. But at the end of it all, for me, it's about knowing your customer, which you're saying, and also running things very professionally. One of the things that we have a tool which we call 30 steps to professionalize your business within 30 days. All those things that you're talking about, whereby someone that doesn't understand the importance of a website or your social media handles or the CEO corporate brand, the business brand, the actually even your emails for your business, all these things when you're working with corporate is important. Working with, you know, individual clients don't really matter. But if you want to level up, then there's certain ways you do things, contracts, right? NDA, I mean, processes that you have to do, which sometimes, and I can tell you in Kenya, a lot of people, when I do certain things, they say, you know, you're making things maybe complicated, but the truth is, you know, if you really want to work with certain businesses, you have to have your processes in place. Otherwise, maybe you won't get paid. Then what is your record? You didn't have anything documented. So really thank you for that. And I think some of this information is in your SME handbook, which is actually my next question for you, because this is something that I remember seeing you launch in South Africa, which was really, really important. You have it in English, you have it in Zulu. And tell us more about this handbook and why you wanted to, why you thought it was important to set it up. And what are your plans about making it go, you know, continentally, global? What are your plans for this small business handbook?
Wow. So, you know, and I wrote the book purely, you know, I did, let me put it this way. I didn't plan to write the book.
Okay.
And it was not the plan, right? I never saw myself as an author. This is what happened, is that it was so hard for me, right, to build a business. So I started off with 300 Rand, which is about 3,000 Kenyan shillings. And, you know, that's how I started off. That's the amount of money I needed at the time to open a bank account. And then everything else I bootstrapped, right? So I bootstrapped, or I got the triple F, friends, family, and fools to help me out. So I broke my laptop whilst I was traveling. So I had no laptop. So my older brother lent me his old laptop and gave me a dongle with, data. And, I literally, those are my two assets. And that and my brain. I was like, okay, so I have these three things. So what can I do? So I need to earn money. So then I started thinking of different things that I can do. But basically, I looked at the steps that I took and the places where I stumbled. And then I started to ask myself, no, man, some of the stuff should be easily accessible. Like, we can't all be going through like the same pitfalls. So that was the one thing. And then when I started that whole mentoring process, I actually started recognizing and seeing the data. And people always asked the same questions. It was irrespective of which industry they were from, or, wherever, it was always the same questions. And then one day, this lady came to me and she's just like, you know what? I wish I had recorded your talk. Or because then I would be able to remember what you said, as I'm driving in the car. I wish I had done this. And then again, it happened again, and somebody had said exactly the same thing. Is there a place where I can find some of the information that you shared? And then I thought to myself, I think there's something there. And so it was literally me starting to answer the questions that people had asked me. And then I started seeing, hey, I have all this information that I'm putting together. Oh, maybe make it into a book. And that's literally how it came together. The Small Business Handbook. And then South Africa has 11 official languages. Yes, English is the language of business, but the most spoken language is my home language, isiZulu. And again, I remember in a classroom at one of the business schools, we were doing a program of women in construction. Some of these women had, construction projects in the millions of rands. And I remember this one woman standing up saying in her home language, could you say this in my home language first so that it sinks in, then say it in English? Then I said to myself, why is it that we feel we need to teach business in English? When we were in China, girl, and the Chinese spoke Mandarin and Cantonese.
I know.
And we were with Chinese kids in our class who could hardly speak English at the beginning of the year, but they still passed and, were flying colors in the MBA with the little English that they knew that they eventually caught on. So then I thought to myself, how about we make business language accessible by providing it into our own home languages? And hence why I changed it into, I translated it into one of our languages. And so with regards to answering your question about how do I make it more available, I've been sitting and I've been like, okay, how do I make it accessible across the continent? So as I've mentioned to you, I've thought, do I make a SADC one? Do I start adding in? And really, it's kind of come down to this, and it's come down to the logistics. One, the logistics has been quite difficult to think through. And then also the expense. So the expense of actually printing a physical book is ridiculous. And then think about it, try to post it across the continent is something else. So I've really had to think through who could be the partners, who can I partner with, can we collaborate, but then now I'm actually realizing, since I wrote the book and to where we are today, there are so many more people providing this knowledge for free. So this knowledge that I have in my book is not necessarily unique, right? So I'm seeing that there's a lot more people creating online courses. having events like you having today where they're sharing the knowledge. And so where I'm sitting at is that I'd love to find a way to collaborate and make the book, you know, accessible across the continent and then make it Pan-African. But at the same time, my question is the book format right? Should I be focusing on digital? And if it's digital, then how should it look like? So for me, that's really where I'm at. But at the end of the day, you know, what I'm realizing, again, for entrepreneurs, that we have to realize this, is that we mustn't fall in love with our solution. So there's a friend of mine in the impact entrepreneurship space. He always says to the social entrepreneurs, don't fall in love with the solution. Fall in love with solving the problem. That way, you're open-minded in terms of how the solution could look like. So I realized that by being fixated on having a physical book has been one of the reasons I haven't been able to expand quicker across the continent. Now the question is, what are you trying to solve? What is that end goal? The end goal is empowering Africans to create businesses and sustainable businesses. Now the question goes back, how? Is it the book or is it a different way of delivering the book?
Yes, in fact, when you were talking, I was just thinking what people were asking for is a reference guide. What people want is someone to go and get information. Does it have to be a physical book? No. So your mindset as an entrepreneur is really trying to figure out what's the best way to get this knowledge to the people who need it. And I really, 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 really like that. And for all of you who are in South Africa, you know, I have different people who watch my show. Get that small business handbook. And for you in Africa, again, Nokwazi will be reaching out to us, telling us what her next steps are, because you don't stay stagnant. You always have to keep moving, right? That's the idea about business, providing solutions all the time.
I mean, the ebook is there. It's available as digital, so it's available on Amazon and it's available on Snaplify. But I just know there are some people who love the hardcore physical book, and I'm one of those people. You know, I have a huge library, but also I think, again, end goal, you know, if we're about empowering more people, then maybe I need to rethink about how do we get it out there. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nokwazi. Gosh, you know, I'm looking at the time, it's like 7:15, and I'm like, where has 45 minutes gone? And I know there's a lot of more information that you'd like to share. But one of the things that I remember you mentioning earlier was about financial literacy, which I'm really big on, right? I'm really big on both personal and business, right? But financial literacy is what I realize a lot of people are missing on. They lack information. People are not able to do what they need to do because of this. And that's why even me being, you know, helping people raise capital was a problem, because they really didn't understand the process and all the things that they need to do. Hence why I do what I do. I love to talk to people and share so that they're made aware. But the key here is access to finance, access to market, capacity building. Those are some of the things that a lot of SMEs have issues with. So my last question, because I have somebody who will be giving us some solutions today, but for me, I guess my question for you really was, since this is such a big issue for SMEs, access to finance, access to market, which you alluded to, what do you think that businesses need to do, especially African businesses? What do they need to do to access them, right? You've alluded to it, but I just want you to sort of maybe just be very clear. If you want to access markets, if you want to access finance, these are what you need to do. Then I can then invite my guests to come and tell us what it is that they're doing from a Pan-African space. All right, Nokwazi.
So I think for me, one thing you've got to recognize is that finance is a tool, right? And finance isn't everything. So I would start off and say, look and analyze your business model. Look at your business model, look at where the gaps are, and look to fix those gaps. So if one of the things that you've noticed is that in terms of your systems and processes, you don't have your books in order, and you don't have a business bank account, you're operating from a personal bank account, go fix that. right? So go fix, go formalize, go find this, where you are going wrong, even just from a small compliance space, and go fix that. And I would start off with that. And for me, fixing that is just simply just opening the bank account and operating from that bank account. It's about doing, your financials every month and finding a bookkeeper or an accountant who can help you manage that. It's, so starting off there, it's almost like just fixing the small issues. And then, okay, it's also about telling your story. So you've got to tell people as well what you do. So make yourself visible. So, don't make a potential financier have to search for you. Make it easy for them to find you and get them to be able to hear your story. And so for me, I just start off with the small things. I've seen people being supported, right, with literally operating from home, running the tiniest little business. But when they were asked, show us your bank statements, show us your tax certificates, show us this, they were able to show it. And then, depending on who it is, whether it's a seed investor, whether it's a development bank, a foundation, those people who really want to start off at the early stages, they will come in because they see that you have made the effort and they will support you. So for me, it's about you start off and say, let me look at my business model, let me look at my business as a whole, see where the gaps are, and maybe take the initiatives to start to put the right systems and processes in place.
All right. Thank you for that. And with that, I always tell people that's why you need a business advisor, someone from outside who's coming in to actually help you with that, because most business people don't have that. So they're just doing business and they're just running, day to day, and they are not able to actually look at it from a, from a holistic point of view. So really, thank you for that. Now, just hold on, because I know we have questions. We have people on Facebook, we have people on Zoom. We'll ask questions in a little while, but before we ask those questions, we do have here Ronke Adepujo from BAYI Foundation. I will have her introduce what her organization does, but I thought this was really timely to bring Ronke on board to really talk about access to finance, because for me, anywhere I go and I'm talking to business people, the issue always comes up. I have this great business idea, or I'm already in business, I want to scale up, but I need funding. And what I've realized, most people are not ready, right? So we at Regal Africa are always helping businesses to raise capital. That was really our essence, to actually help people create wealth, and access to finance was one of the key components for us at Regal Africa. But a lot of people are not ready. And for them to be ready, they need to actually have people who will be able to help them support them and give them the information or the tools that they need. So with that, maybe I'll go ahead and just have Ronke just share with us. Hi, Ronke.
Hi, Anne. How are
you? Great. Thank you for joining in. And for all of you who are on the show, I do have to say, I also met Ronke through Hart International Business School on my first day doing my MBA in San Francisco. I met her and we became really good friends. She shared with me what she was doing. We have the same background in banking. I won't go in and talk more about everything that she's done, but we share a lot. We share a lot the fact that we came from corporate. We're back home in Africa, really trying to support businesses. And so when she told me what it is that she's doing, I thought it was just timely that I bring her on board and just share with us what it is that you're doing, so everyone in business can take advantage of this opportunity that should be coming in the next week or so. So Ronke, go ahead and tell us more about BAYI Foundation and the work that you're doing.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Anne, for having me on the show. And I would like to say, first off, thank you, Nokwazi, for laying the groundwork, because you really touched on a lot of things that I was afraid I wouldn't have time to go into. And the reason is this is where BAYI Foundation comes in. You've highlighted the gaps. So the next step is, okay, how do I plug these gaps? And in plugging these gaps, first of all, you need to know what are my specific gaps. And that is where BAYI Foundation comes in. So what we do is we provide training, resources, and funding to African-based SMEs. And when we say training, we have a business support program that is online. So it's an online training course. And what we've done is we've gotten the top business topics or top business issues that we've identified as the key gaps. And we've compressed all of this into our program. And we've gotten the industry experts that have years of experience working in this field, or they have years of experience providing advisory to either SMEs or large organizations, and we've gotten them to come to facilitate this course. So you'll be taking courses as an African SME, you'll be taking courses like structuring the operations of your business. You'll be taking courses such as selecting the right financing option for you, because we find that, like you said, they all say, I need funding, but one, they can't tell you what they're going to use the money for. Two, they actually can't absorb the amount that they're asking for. Three, and most important, is that the funding is actually a camouflage for a lot of other business issues that are actually existing in their business. And that is why I actually tell people it's almost easier to start up, but it's harder to scale. You get to a point where you are like, okay, how do I grow this business beyond where it is? And those are the target SMEs that we want to help. So we have said, okay, if you've been in operations for at least 3 years, we know that at this point, you've survived 3 years. So we can see growth, we can see traction. But now it's almost a struggle to break free from that level that you're in into the next level. And that is why we customize these courses for these particular types of SMEs. And so these are courses that would actually help the SME to understand, okay, I've left the startup phase. Now I'm in the growing phase, or the growth phase, as we call it. So how do I start playing with the large organizations that Nokwazi talked about? You'll be very surprised how many 2-year-old, 3-year-old SMEs don't have financial statements. I mean, they actually, they don't have purchase order templates. We're gonna put you through, it's not theoretical. We're actually gonna say, okay, you need to build this. You need to have this. This is what the problem is with your business. So we're keeping the class small so that you get one-on-one interaction with the facilitator. You get a little bit of personal attention on your business. And this is where we'll start talking about the real issues. You know, money is not really your issue. Money is everybody's issue. What is your issue? So we want to understand what it is that you think you are doing right or you're actually doing wrong. And, you know, this kind of reminds me of the webinar we had at BAYI Foundation a couple of weeks ago, where we invited SMEs, African SMEs, and we also invited fund managers, venture capitalists, and private equity firms on the same platform to discuss, okay, what are the gaps really? Why does it seem as if the investors seem to be giving more money to other regions of the world and are skipping Africa? And this was almost what I'll call a revelation moment, where the investors said, we have no issues giving money to African businesses. In fact, our mandate is that we should be giving money to African businesses. This is a great time to be an African SME. This is a great time to be a woman entrepreneur. This is a great time to be a young entrepreneur. But we can't actually find the entrepreneurs that we're mandated to give the money to give the money to them, because they're not meeting our criteria. And, you know, for us on that webinar, we were trying to balance the perspective of the investor with the perspective of the SME. So we're trying to let them know, okay, you know, the African business environment is different. So some criteria have to, you know, adjust. As much as we try to adjust it to the African business environment, there are standards that are standards. You need to have financial statements. You need to digitize your payment flow. You cannot be using cash as a means of payment. You cannot be using your personal bank account. We have a lot of SMEs that have not separated their business from themselves. So you see them using their own personal bank account and they haven't opened a business account. They have not even incorporated their businesses. They do not understand what type of financing they need. Everyone wants money. And I ask, the first question I say is, how much and what type? And they say, what do you mean? Do you need debt or do you need equity? When you do equity, do you understand that you're giving away part of your business to the investor? How much are you willing to give away? And you hear things like, oh, maybe 5%. No one is going to buy 5% of your business. They're looking at higher numbers, double digits. So for us, it's like there's also a knowledge gap in that investor SME relationship where and to be honest, the gap is mostly on the SME side, because they don't understand that when you approach an investor, there's certain things you have to have. There are certain things you need to be willing to give up. And for me, I tell the SMEs, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. That is another challenge that we face almost all the time, where we try to almost talk the SME into equity investing, but you wanted money. Now you don't want to give up your business. What did you think you were going to trade for the money? It's not free money. And keep in mind that the investor is not the owner of the money. He's actually managing someone else's money. So he can't just give you someone else's money without knowing how he's going to earn his returns and how he's going to answer to his own, the owner of the money, how he spent the money and managed the money. So these are part of the things that we'll be addressing in our course. Just quickly, I'd like to run through the courses that we'll be providing in the program. The first is developing a business plan and managing your business. The second is structuring the operations of your business. The third is selecting the right financing option for you, like I mentioned earlier. The fourth is maximizing your online value, and this is touching on access to finance, your digital branding, your digital marketing. You see a lot of SMEs spending thousands of dollars on digital marketing. You don't have that kind of money. Why are you burning money on digital marketing and you're not even targeting the right customer segment? So it's almost as if you're just burning the money. So number 5 is maximizing your cash flow, trade finance. We have a lot of SMEs in this bracket that are looking to expand their business, not just in terms of the products and services they offer, but in terms of the region that they are operating in. So how do you go out of your region? We have Africa Free Trade Continental Agreements that is practically in effect. We'll start seeing most of the impacts in 2021. How are you positioning yourself for the Africa Free Trade Agreement? Are you even working your own country, or are you located in like a city? So number 6 is strategy. We're going to be talking a lot about strategy because we find that a lot of it starts from the SME not even having a strategy. Who's your target? What is your value proposition? How do you know your customers? Do you know their buying patterns? Do you know their behaviors? Is your product relevant? Does it add value? Are you selling it to the right type of people? Are you talking to them at the right time? Are you meeting them at the place where they normally conduct their trade and business? So these are questions that we'll answer in strategy. Number 7 is making your business sustainable. Number 8 is business operations. So this is where we talk on digitizing your business. Everyone is saying, oh, they're using technology-enabled products. But are you using the right technology-enabled products? Are your processes seamless? Does the flow make sense? Are you a one-man shop? Do you have too many people in your business and you're paying costs that you shouldn't be paying? Number 9 is implementing financial solutions in your business. And number 10 is what to know legally when seeking investments. And I want to touch a little bit on number 10 quickly, because I think most of what happens is because there's that knowledge gap, a lot of SMEs are afraid to even, start that journey. We at BAYI are going to help you on that journey. So we're not just going to train you and say, go into the world and do what you do. No, after the 10-week training, because I mentioned 10 courses, each course is 10 weeks. Each course is 1 week, sorry. So that's a total of 10 weeks. You would do a business case on your business, taking all that you've learned in the 10 weeks and apply it into your business. So your business becomes a business case. After that, we have a fellowship program where we would assign a business consultant to you. And this business consultant, just think of having a Big Four management consultant or one of the big 3 boutique firms in your business giving you solid advice for 3 to 6 months. That's actually our first investment in you, because we're going to pay for that. So it's at no cost to the SME. We would also assign interns to the business consultant to help do some of the work that needs to be done, and also support you, because we know that this is going to be an extra strain on the SME, and we don't want this to take away from your core competencies or your core businesses. And then after this, you now become eligible for either debt financing, which we cap at $250,000, or equity financing, which is a minimum of $4 million to a maximum of $15 million. And by the time you become eligible, we're not asking basic questions. Who are you? What do you do? What market? What country? What location? We already know you. You've been in our 10-week course. You've been in our fellowship program. We have a consultant that is an industry expert who is going to give us an objective point of view of your business. So you can be telling us one thing and the business consultant is telling us something else. We're going to have to marry those two together, because we're talking about the same business here. So by the time you become eligible for funding, it's almost as if you're just scaling through, because you've kind of done the grunt work, you've done the hard work, and now it's time to just determine how much, how we're going to be implemented, and just doing our regular due diligence DD process. So that's essentially what we offer at BAYI Foundation, and this is open to all African SMEs currently who have at least 3 years of operations under their belt.
Hey, Ronke, I don't know, it looks like you sort of, you offer this to all Africans. This is really crucial, all the information that you're getting here. I mean, I feel like I should have had 2 different shows just because of all the content that you've actually put in. I don't know, can you guys all hear me? Nokwazi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Great. I think Ronke froze, so I wasn't too sure. Ronke, did you finish?
Yes, I can. I'm actually following you. I can hear you.
Okay, great. So as you were saying, for all of you who are joining us on Facebook, for those who are on Zoom, this is a lot of information. Even though it's after 7 o'clock, I'd really like to take the time to just ask you to ask any questions that you think the audience will need to any questions that you may have. But because of time, maybe some of them you can just share it to us at info@rigolafrica.co.ke, and I'll make sure that I connect you to Ronke in regards to her program with the BAYI Foundation. I connect you to Nokwazi so that you can actually get the small business handbook, plus all the other things that they're doing at Matoyana, which is the company that she runs in South Africa. So if you have any questions, just type it up on the chat box, or you can actually raise your hand and I can go ahead and get the question. But if there are no questions
Can
for
I
the
ask
audience on Zoom, I can just...
So Ronke,
sure, go ahead.
in South Africa, there are myriad of similar programs. And what we're starting to find is that SMEs are getting really frustrated, where they're saying, why do I need to go through another training and program in order to access the funding? So I guess, if I put this in the platform and there may be people interested, but they'll be like, but I have to go through another 10 weeks of doing this. So is this the only way to be able to be part of the fellowship and eventually be able to apply to you guys?
So it's a good question, and it's definitely a valid concern in terms of there's so many programs out there, and a lot of them have been taken by SMEs. However, when we got that feedback, we thought of, okay, if we take it out, how do we know the business issues? How do we know that you are addressing those gaps? Just imagine you're the business consultant that is assigned to one of the businesses. If they've not taken this course, what is your starting point? You don't exactly have a lot of time to spend with this SME, right? So you need a sort of, problem statement saying these are the problems with this business, so that you can hit the ground running with the SME and say, okay, how do we start tackling these businesses? How do we start tackling these issues one by one? Remember, the consultant is not necessarily in your region. The consultant can be in the US, in Europe, or in Africa, but may not be in your country. So most of it could be remote. Removing the course, the program, is going to take a lot more value than leaving it in, because we actually looked at some of the other programs that were out there. They were pretty basic. They were not targeted. They were not specific to the problems for growth phase SMEs. So we are saying we're giving you trade finance. Go check out taking a trade finance course in any university and see how much they charge you. Go check out selecting the right type of financing for your business, and talk to a financial advisor. You see how much they'll charge you for that, because that is a lot of targeted specific information that we're giving you for your business. So the short answer is yes, you're still gonna have to go through our program, our business support program, and our fellowship program before you can become eligible for financing.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I wanted to add there, I think, and why I actually wanted to bring Ronke on board, is because for me, the last 5 years, actually, I was remembering today was actually 5 years ago is when I actually got my certificate of incorporation for Regal Africa on August 26, 2015. And my goal was creating wealth. But in my journey, the reason people were not taking up this funding was because they were not ready. But if they came to me to prepare, I have to charge, right? And that is where now the SMEs are saying, I don't have the money, or they're like, why should I charge? Because usually they were just walking into a bank and get the money. So they didn't have to do a lot of things, because they just knew as long as I have collateral and I talk to the bank manager and, a few things, then they get the money. But if you're actually going into look for funding, an equity funding, or you're going to a debt fund, or you're looking at different alternative financing opportunities, there's certain things that you need to do. And I definitely believe that giving this information and one-on-one support to these SMEs is very critical, but it's expensive to do that. So there has to come up, we have to programs that do that. And I think the BAYI Foundation does that. It is the work we're trying to do also at Regal Africa Business Institute, which is what I just set up as part of the Regal Africa group, because we realize training, but the right kind of training, not just basic, the right kind of training is very important, because we do not want to get these SMEs into a position of getting funding and they don't know what to do with it, because then they misuse it, right? But we want to build up scalable business. So I understand a lot of SMEs don't want to go through another 10-week program, but I think it's also necessary. And I think it's just an option that is actually put out there, that anyone who's interested in getting information can do that. Some people would prefer.
And sorry, I forgot to add something quickly. So what
training, others will want to work hand in hand with a consultant. One of us is doing is actually relevant to help these SMEs take it to the next level. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I wanted to add something to that.
Ronke, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes. So what we're doing is, if you're an SME and you feel like you don't have 10 weeks to give to the program, we understand and we're willing to work with you. So what we've said is, if you want to have someone in your leadership team. So for example, if you have like a right-hand man or woman, or like a deputy or CFO or COO in your organization, someone you're grooming up to kind of replace you, that person can actually take some of the courses. So you can split the courses, the program, depending on the courses that you are interested in. So I listed 10 courses. You can decide to take 3. Another member of your leadership team can decide to take another 3, and someone else can decide to take another 4. How you split it is entirely up to you, as long as all the people taking the courses are in the leadership team and they do make executive decisions in the business.
All right.
Okay,
I think because of time, sorry.
Can I ask another question? I'm just asking questions that I know entrepreneurs will ask.
Okay.
So I think then the other question that I have for you is that, is there a specific industry that you're looking at? Yeah, I think yes.
Okay, so that's a quick answer. We're industry agnostic, which means we're open to all industries except oil and gas. So we'll look at pretty much everything else: agriculture, healthcare, education, technology, financial services, what have you. But oil and gas, because of the uniqueness or dynamics of oil and gas in Africa, we are not very keen on that sector.
All right. Thank you for that. So because of time, what I will do, both of you ladies, if you can just give us your last remarks really around this topic around supporting SMEs to do business in Africa. What is it that you really want to see SMEs do? And you've already shared with us your solutions, but what are the last remarks you have for our audience who are in business or who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs? What would you like to tell them about doing business in Africa and how to succeed? Nokwazi?
So I think for me, it's take your business seriously. Take your business seriously, invest in it, realizing that, nothing's for free. So you either need to put in the time or you need to put in the money in order to get it to where it needs to be. And so for me, that's that. It's you are the first investor in your business. So if you are the first investor in the business, then you want to see a return on investment in the long run. So ask yourself, what do you need to put in order to see that and see that return? So invest in yourself and invest in your business.
All right, Ronke, go ahead and let us know your last remarks in regards to business in Africa.
So I would say, like Nokwazi said, you're the first investor. So take any program you enroll in as an investment in your business, which means don't just take any program. You actually should ask questions. What is this program going to do for my business? What's in it for me? How is it going to improve my business? What am I going to learn? What are the learning outcomes? So what do I do after the program? So those are some of the questions that I sense that a lot of SMEs don't ask. And because they just see free business for SMEs or take this business, they just jump at it. And now that's why they're like exhausted from, the programs that are out there. But then you've taken all these programs that have had no impact on you. And then when you come across one that would have an impact on you, it's not like I'm tired of doing it, but you should have saved all your energy for the one. So I'm not just touting BAYI Foundation. If BAYI Foundation is not for you, find another program that is for you. Because as you're selecting us, we also have to select you. Do you meet our criteria? We have criteria that you find on our website, and before you can actually enroll. We're not just taking anyone. And once we hit our cap for the class, we stop, because quality for us is more important. And that special attention to each SME is something that we think is very unique. And that's why we're being serious about that. So for me, my last word is just think about everything you're doing and the reason why you're doing it. Don't just do it just because. It's very important now to make calculated and impactful decisions as a business owner.
All right. Thank you, ladies, very much for joining in. I really appreciate you taking the time to be part of the business conversation with Gaitha. I really appreciate the people who joined in. I know you've learned a lot. I know I have also learned, and I agree with a lot of what the two ladies have said. For any of you who want to learn more about Matoyana, the website is actually on the chat. Plus, I'll be sharing that with anyone who's interested in getting more information about what Matoyana is doing in South Africa and also the rest of Africa. Also, for you who are in East Africa, we are working with BAYI Foundation. You can go ahead directly to their website or reach out to us if you need any clarification. The whole essence of this business conversation was to just share business knowledge, because I believe business is also a way to eradicate poverty on the African continent. I believe it's a great way to create generational wealth through family business. So this is something I'm really, really passionate about. And that's why I took the time to just say at least once a week, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. East African time, I'll take the time to just bring great people who will share information with you. I will help you with you. There's support there. As you've heard, there is money. I know of very many investors. People are willing to put money in businesses, but are you ready for that money? Have you positioned yourself for that money, right? Last time we talked about your core assets. Do you understand your financial assets? Have you built your brand asset? Have you built your talent asset? You're hearing through this BAYI Foundation, you will get people who are ex-Deloitte, ex-McKinsey, probably ex-Bank of America, ex-Procter & Gamble. You get really great talent to help you with your businesses. So I would just say for all of you who really want to take your business to the next level, go ahead, reach out, find out more about this information and join in, and also share with your network. Your network is your network. So as you're growing yourself, please help the rest of your network grow. So I really want to thank all of you for joining in. I also want to thank our sponsors, Elite Global Branding, that does all our event information and all the branding for Regal Africa. And for me personally at Gaitha, I want to thank them. Also my company, Regal Africa, the work that we've been doing for the last couple of years. And like I mentioned, we are in the process of really building the Regal Africa Business Institute, because we know the core of what we really want to do is help people create wealth, and business is really critical. And any other information that you want to hear about business, reach out to me or anyone at my team at info@regalafrica.co.ke, and we'll be sure to answer those questions, or at least direct you to the right people who will be able to give you that information or that support that you need in regards to access to finance, in regards to access to market or capacity building. The goal here is, what do you want as a business? Where do you want to go? And I can assure you there's someone somewhere or an organization that can support you with your business. And so with that, I'll go ahead and say thank you again. Thank you for joining Business Conversation with Gaitha. I look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place on Zoom or on my Facebook page at Gaitha. And with that, I'll say thank you again and God bless. Bye-bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.